Thank you, thank you. So, with a deep honor and pleasure to introduce everybody to a very dear friend and very wise teacher of mine, Jamie Wheal. I had the great pleasure of doing Jamie's Flow Genome Project training, and I respect him as one of the great thinkers of our time around how we can really become homegrown humans, becoming whole, basically. And Jamie is just an incredible researcher of the ancient future. He carries incredible codes for us all. And so he's going to take us through a talk that he's prepared called Born Again Patriots. And Jamie, with that said, I'd love to hand you the stage and really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lucian. Thanks, Rachel. So yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome to Earth Day. And I would imagine that there's going to be an awful lot of talk today, and a lot of our shared thinking is the idea of the global challenges we face. And it's overwhelmingly tempting to come to the conclusion that the global challenges we face require global solutions. And while that is absolutely true, I want to kind of take a different tack and almost take the opposite perspective today and explore something else. Because if we take a look at where we are right now, we realize, if everybody's familiar with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that actualization and self-transformation kind of are at the tippity top, basic security is at the bottom, we are seeing a lot of instability through the world and a lot of kind of falling through the floorboards of that pyramid. And when we think about this aspirational, idealized, global-centric consciousness, it's awesome, it's world-changing, it's game-changing, but it is also fragile. And it might not be the direction that millions and billions of us are actually heading right now. We're going through the floorboards, right? And the key here is, what can we grab onto to self-arrest? What can we grab onto that's solid and sturdy that we can use to arrest our fall and then get back to the climb to the mountaintop? Because see, here's the thing. I mean, basically after oxytocin, everything is optional. And if you think about our good buddy, Brett Weinstein, and his wife, Heather Hayne, are evolutionary biologists, and they've made this point beautifully, which is, hey, be really careful, identity politics, folks, because if you invoke identity, if you invoke tribalism, that is a deep evolutionary biological structure. And once you play that game, then the idea of getting us unstuck to all be one world, one family is a much harder thing to do. Everybody, you might read like blogs and kind of pop neuroscience things of like, oxytocin is the cuddle hormone, or the love drug, or the trust, or the trust drug. And it is. And it bonds mother to child, and it bonds lover to lover. But Molly Crockett's work at Oxford and now Yale on the power of crowds and the power of tribalism has also revealed something else, that oxytocin is also the curb stomp the other hormone. It is actually what bonds us to our tribe and our clan. And when we're high on oxytocin, we're not just loving and cuddling, we're also willing to do it. We're also willing to troll and to traumatize those who aren't like us. So we really need to be aware that the project of global humanitarianism is asymmetrically harder, right? So where you have folks looking to break the system and claim theirs for their tribe, that's like Robespierre at the French Revolution, where he famously said, in order to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. All they got to do is break eggs, smash and grab. What we're trying to do with this global humanitarian project is much more like trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's fragile, it's elective, and it's asymmetrically more complex. So that the tribalists of any stripe have the second law of thermodynamics on their side. They have millions of years of evolutionary biological encoding for us to fragment along those fault lines. What we're trying to do is much harder. And the final thing, just to say, hey, if we're really facing these global problems that require global solutions, it's been a long time since the summer of love, folks. If it was easy, we would have already done it. So coming here from Austin, Texas, they've got a good saying down here. They say, dance with the ones that brung you. And I think that's kind of where we are. Like, this is as good as it's going to get for a while. So that's the invitation, which is not how do we suddenly accelerate human development and growth and consciousness right now. It's actually what is healthy regression look like? What is the strongest, most stable anchors that we can reactivate and we can reanimate, right, in order to get as many people healthily through this as possible? And so that's the question, because if you think about progressives in general, we've given up all the good stuff. We've given up all the best words, all the best values. You don't hear on MSNBC anybody talking about honor and duty and courage and sacrifice and patriotism, right? That gets just ceded to the alt-right. What are we left with? We're left with intersectionality and patriarchy and privilege and mansplaining. You're like, what the fuck? That is not what you build a movement on. So question is, right, is how can we become born again patriots on the verge of the apocalypse? And many folks, you probably already know this, right? It's been making the rounds. Everybody's bored. We got lots of keyboard time right now. But basically, the apocalypse is not the end of the world. That's Armageddon. We definitely don't want Armageddon. But the apocalypse comes from the ancient Greek apocalypticus, and it means the revealing. And what is revealed? I'm just basically making a case for healthy regression, for looking back behind us to see what we've forgotten, what we have forgotten, right? What may be revealed is then in the seeds of the American tradition lies the infinite game, right? All men and women are created equal and entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That had never been done before. That had never been tried before. Now, how have we played it through? Total shit show. All sorts of finite game play, trying to win and trying to bend and pervert this. But if we think of what Lincoln did at Gettysburg, if we think about what Martin Luther King did in his I Have a Dream speech, every time we've come to crisis, we've dusted it off and we've doubled down on the commitment 77 years ago, right? We have a check cashed with insufficient funds. The seeds of the infinite game are embedded in this Enlightenment experiment. It's true for the UK as well. And if you look at what Queen Elizabeth just did 2 weeks ago, when Boris Johnson was just about to go in the hospital, she gave one of her first public addresses in years. And she reactivated Keep Calm and Carry On. She reactivated the British courage, the Victory Gardens, the London Blitz. And the Brits just kind of like shook off Brexit, right? Stopped being factionalized, and they reanimated their courage, their honor, their duty. So that's what's possible for us right now, right? And if, Buckminster Fuller, everybody knows and loves him. He's one of our absolute Dharma uncles on a day like today. And he articulated a contemporary global version of this infinite game. He said, can we make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time, through spontaneous cooperation without ecological offense or disadvantage to anyone? So that's the possibility, and that's the invitation. So how can we find the shared values in the infinite game? How can we double down on that and not let factional tribalism from either side? Because weirdly, here's the thing: social justice warriors and 4chan trolls are actually on the same fucking team. They are both looking to dismantle the infinite game and the American experiment. So if we can recommit to these things, we have a chance. And that means setting aside our favorite political battles and talking points. That means seeking commonality and mutuality with Middle America. That means getting away from bi-coastal elites, and it means finding the deeper yeses that we all share. So I want to leave you guys with this. This is an excerpt from Wendell Berry, another one of our Dharma uncles on a day like this, ecologist and writer and all-around curmudgeonly badass. And he said this, he said, "So friends, every day, do something that won't compute. Love the Lord, love the world, work for nothing." And then it just went away. Some bitch, here we go, just one second. Love, take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Thanks, folks.